Many pollinator species populations are at risk due to a combination of many different factors, including climate change, habitat loss, and pesticide exposure. The decline of pollinator species could ultimately lead to a parallel decline of plant species, threatening biodiversity and food security. Here, just a year ago, was a small piece of forest with a meadow around it, and now it's a gas station. In here, new housing developments swept up a field of thickets. Does this look appealing to you? Or this? Or this? None of this looks appealing to me personally, and neither for pollinators. Habitat destruction and fragmentation are having a significant effect on pollinating species. But we are gardeners, nature lovers, and everyone who worries about bees dying and the decline and extinction of vulnerable species, we can make a difference. Because in our greedy, lazy, and destroying human nature, we have a part from the Creator, and we still have time, and something can be done if we do it together. So how can we do it? In this video, I'm not going to just feed you a list of pollinator attracting flowers, because it's useless without knowing exactly what you need to do to bring those pollinators into your garden. I could simply list 10 to 15 to 20 flowering plants and tell you to plant them in your garden. But why? When people who already have these plants are panicked over the absence of pollinators. So this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. So, step 1. Have you ever noticed that when you place a bird feeder in the wrong place, you never see any birds, but then when you move it just a few meters away, that same bird feeder is empty within a few hours? Do you ever wonder why? It's because in that first case, there was no shelter. And it's the same thing for pollinators. You want not just attracting flowers, but shelter in sheltered areas. If you look closely at a wild meadow or some thickets, and you see a lot of plants and bushes growing closely together, nature abhors a vacuum. And if you want pollinators to come into your garden, you want to first make sure you are offering a safe space protected from predators. And now step 2. And your step 2 is to attract different pollinators to flowering plants from different families. We have Asteraceae, Rosaceae, Fabaceae, Cruciferae, and other families of flowering plants that you can possibly plant. Remember, diversity is the key. The more different plants you have, the more different types of pollinators will come to visit and breed. And lots of people think they need flowers, but you'll be surprised how many pollinators visit vegetable gardens full of cucumbers, tomatoes, beans, or lettuce. Plant only heirloom varieties, because cucumbers such as English cucumbers and many others are hybrids and have only female parthenocarpic flowers. But heirloom varieties won't have any fruits without pollinators because they have male and female flowers and need insects to deliver the pollen. Also, make sure you are always having blooming plants in your garden, replacing one another from early spring to late fall. Now, step 3. Up to 70% of modern flowering plants in garden centers and nurseries are hybrid varieties with significant gene modification. Plants are often sterile, and pollinators have no interest in visiting them, since there's nothing to eat. Those plants have beautiful double or extremely large flowers, and it may be an attractive garden decoration, but it's useless for many beneficial insects, and honestly only beneficial for pests. So avoid hybrid and genetically modified plants. Besides their heirloom progeny, always perform much better success in my garden. Step 4. You want to make sure to never use pesticides or any chemicals. By buying weed control, you're buying poison for bees and butterflies. Create an organic garden. Lots of pests can be controlled naturally with natural remedies. You can read books and do your own online research, and I can assure you it is possible. Sometimes it is better to remove pests with your hand and let unwanted weeds grow together with your flowers. So just let it be and wait for the balance to occur. For example, disgusting earwigs can control aphids in your garden. So destroy the first and you will always get the second. I would better plant some extra plants for them to eat and set up traps, but I'm not going to buy any pesticides. Step 5. Plant flowering plants in large groups. So large groups of echinacea or phloxes or a few vines of cucumbers or tomatoes. Large groups of flowers attract pollinators effectively because it's easier for them to spot them and to find them. And also moving around them and finding pollinators saves a lot of energy collecting pollen and nectar. Bees tend to collect nectar from only one type of plant at a time. Step 6. Plant host plants for butterflies and caterpillars. Butterflies require specific host plants to lay their eggs on so that their offspring can feed on those once they emerge. For example, monarch butterflies require milkweed to feed on in the early stages, so that's where adult monarchs lay their eggs. Another example is the black swallowtail butterfly. The caterpillars, they feed on parsley and dill. So plant some extra and don't worry, they are not going to eat all your herbs, and when they're done, the herbs will catch up growing and there will be enough for you too. Once the caterpillars become butterflies, all they feed on is nectar and pollen sources. Step 7. Provide a permanent water source. Water your garden regularly or place saucepans or pots between your plants full of water and make sure it's always clean water. You can collect rainwater as well if possible, and change your water frequently enough to avoid mosquito breeding. For fertilizer, use natural compost or manure, wood ashes, or any other type of compost material. Step 8. Many native bee species build their nests in the ground by tunneling into the soil. You can provide a habitat for them by leaving areas of bare soil throughout your garden, hidden behind your plants. If you don't like open ground, you can cover it with natural, not treated wood chips. Step 9. Minimize manicuring. Perfectly cut green lawns and gardens don't have as much of a benefit to pollinators. The bees will thank you for leaving those pesky dandelions on your lawn, as they provide essential nutrients in the early spring. Fallen trees can provide crucial habitats for many species of cavity nesting bees when left in your garden. Excessive raking or tilling should be avoided to prevent destroying ground nesting pollinator nests. And finally, step 10. Pollinators locate food sources by sight and scent. You can attract lots of bees if you plant with more white, purple, yellow, and blue flowers instead of red because of the specifications of their vision. This will help them spot resources in your garden more easily. Pollinators will go crazy for aromatic flowers such as lavender or sage. Plants a lot of smelly herbs as well, oregano, basil, dill, and your garden will be full of beautiful butterflies, bees, and bumblebees. So I hope you stayed with me till the end, because I do believe together we can make a difference.